And hello, everyone. Come on in. I am Rochelle Kent, and I am here with Dr. Yolanda McKinney.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
And we are on the Touching You Talk Show Network for our podcast called Ask an Autism Mom. This is where we answer questions that have been submitted to us, and we answer them with honesty, truthfulness, and with a spiritual, godly background as well. So today's topic is a is one that's just a heavy one, but it's also one that pretty much starts everyone's autism journey.
Correct.
And that topic is on the importance of and how to get an evaluation.
Yes.
So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to touch on some of the fears, the hindrances that we have for getting evaluations. Um, is it biblical to get an evaluation? Because some people don't want to do that because it makes them question. It seems like you're questioning your faith to get an evaluation. And we're just going to be here to uh, inspire you and to encourage you through this. Dr. McKinney, Sister Yolanda,
Yes, ma'am.
what would you like to add to this?
I just think that it's important that we understand that if you're listening, right, to your point, if you're wrestling, you don't know if you want to trust God, you're seeking answers concerning your child and their ability, this is the episode for you, right? So many parents, to your point earlier, Rochelle, feel like pursuing evaluations mean they're doubting God, or they're going to label their child so many different things. But seeking an evaluation is not a lack of faith, it's stewardship. So if we think about Hosea 4 and 6, it says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So we really just want you to keep an open mind. Today, we're always going to give you those faith-based scriptures to support what we're saying. And so we really just want you to sit back, listen, learn, put your questions in the chat. And I think I'm getting some.
Absolutely. We want to hear your questions. So share, like, and be in the chat. We see them, we will post them, we will
Yes.
answer them as we are going along. Now, as you were saying, we really want to kind of just remove the fear from
Right.
getting the evaluation and touch on that getting an evaluation is actually a form of stewardship. We know when we become parents, we become stewards of some of the most precious things to ever walk this earth. And that's whether your child has a disability or not. And so we want to also show that getting an evaluation is a way to show that you're operating in wisdom and that you're doing love in action, because we love our children. We
Yeah.
want the best for our children, right?
Yes.
So that may mean that we have to understand that although we are the experts about our children, there are actual professionals in the medical field, in the psychological field, and even in the educational field that can help us be better stewards to our children. So, Dr. Yolanda, I want to ask you, when we're looking at autism and the evaluation process through the lens of our faith, as Christians, what can we do, to combat that fear that maybe our child's autism is the result of like a curse or a punishment for something that we did, that time back in 19 you experimented in college or something, like what how do we combat that fear?
Well, I think it's important that we understand that autism is a neurological difference, right? And that it's part of God's design. Scripture tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Autism doesn't change that. Your child is still fearfully and wonderfully made. And a diagnosis doesn't change who God says our children are. It does not change that. Diagnosis doesn't mean that your child's destiny is any different than what God said it would be. And whatever comes out of that evaluation, because I think you made a good point earlier when you said the fear, right? You know something's different about your child, you just don't know what it is. And so you have anxiety, or, just something that you don't know what's going to come out of it. And so you have a fear about it. And so I think it's important that you understand that an evaluation will help you to understand how your children navigate the world. Like you gave a perfect example to me earlier, about how the person just kind of explained everything to you in detail to the point where you could understand. And I think that's very important, because if you understand better, then you're able to better advocate for your child. And remember, the ultimate goal is advocacy, right? That you're able to navigate, you're able to advocate for your child. And then as your child gets older, you're teaching them how to advocate for themselves. But if you don't understand all the nuances of what your child needs, then it's hard to communicate that to the people who will interact with your child when you're not around. Because as much as we want to be with our children 24/7, that's unrealistic. There are going to be times when, and we've all been there, where our whole life was consumed by our child. And there comes a time when you have to be able to trust other people, including, educators, if that's what if that's the path you decide to take. Because I do understand not everybody is comfortable sending their children, to public school. But if that's the case, then you have to be ready to relinquish some of that control so that other people can help you to support your child.
I like that. I like that. Like you said, relinquish control. One of the things that spiritually I had to unlearn to help my children was the fact that well, one, personally, that I'm not in control. Period. That was the first thing, that I cannot plan my way through autism and support needs. That I'm not going to plan it away. I'm not. But the other thing that I had to learn spiritually was that my child's struggles are not a reflection of God's love or lack thereof for me. And that was a hard one for me to swallow and to deal with, because I felt like I was that good girl that went to church and did the things, and I volunteered and everything. God, how dare you? Why is this so difficult? Why is it not falling into place? And I had to change the way that I prayed as well. I no longer was praying for God to fix my child. I was praying for the wisdom and ability to support my child. Does that make sense? Did you have a similar situation?
So I think for me, I had to unlearn the fact that, or the thought that I had to do it all by myself. Right. So I think spiritually, I had to unlearn that God doesn't do things always the way I want them done, or the way I think they should done. Like, so maybe it was learn and not unlearn, right? I had to learn that it was a faith walk, that it takes an extreme amount of faith. I had to learn that, yes, I have everything I need to be able to do this, right? And I had to, I think, unlearn all the things about church that makes you think you have to be perfect at everything, because there are definitely mistakes made daily when it comes to raising a child with autism. And especially now that my son's an adult, has become incredibly challenging to navigate. And so, yeah, I think there were things I had to unlearn, and then things I had to learn as well.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And then kind of like you said, that everything that's have to be perfect. I think that's something that not just with evaluations, right? But
Right.
just overall, one reason why a lot of families with children with disabilities or autism don't come to church is because our kids are not perfect, our families are not perfect. But when we realize that no one's perfect
Right.
and there's no one way to worship
Right.
and all are welcomed.
Right. When you have to unlearn that rigid church stereotype where
Yes,
you come in, you sit down, the preacher stands up, they go through the program, you read the paper. You have to unlearn that,
yep,
especially if you have a child with a disability. You
for
just have to
sure.
unlearn it.
For sure. So we're unlearning that, you know, that 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 are fears, that things that cause us to have fears about autism. We're unlearning those things. But let's get deeper into the evaluation. Because sometimes some people aren't getting evaluations because they don't know what it all entails,
Right.
because the internet shows us a
Ooh,
lot of things. Um,
the
I
internet.
know before my child one of my children received his first evaluation, the things that I saw online was from the 1950s and
Right.
60s. It was in black and white. They were in institutions. And it almost felt like these children were being put in kennels and, given
Yeah.
treats to perform tricks. And I was like, I'm not putting my kid through that.
Right.
What is it?
Right.
So we right now we want to demystify what is an evaluation right now we're going to be talking more or less with a little bit of overlap between a medical diagnosis and possibly um, an evaluation that you get at a school, because
Okay.
they're two different things.
They are.
They are two very different things. So um, starting with the medical side, that is comprehensive. Okay. They are going to give you some paperwork and you're going to answer, how are things in your child's life, in your household,
Yes.
things that you've experienced. Okay. And they're going to put that all in there so that we can start getting a fuller picture, because we're with our children all day. This evaluation might go a couple of days, like 2 hours for a couple of days. I've seen
Mhm.
some evaluations, they just do it all in one big chunk, and it's a 5 hour, 6 hour day, like it was a day at a job,
Right.
with breaks in there.
Mhm.
So we want to let you know that it's not just one test. It's not a blood test. It's a combination of things brought together. Also, what the evaluator views as they interact with your child, and then they bring it together. Um, uh, Dr. Yolanda, from your experience from like the education side, how is that evaluation done on, like, more on the education side?
So it's similar. So there are raters. I'm just going to call them raters that are given to
Mhm.
parents. And as hard as it is, you have to be as truthful as possible. I remember shedding a lot of tears filling out Cameron's raters, right? And then they may give the rater to anybody who's been close to them. And then if with your permission, they can get records from the doctor, but it's really, and then they will observe your child in multiple settings, right? The classroom, the at recess, at lunch, and then they compile all of that, and then they determine there will be a team of people. Like, you may have a psychologist, you may have a social worker, right? Um, but ultimately, we have educational diagnosticians, right? The people who uh, diagnose. So there are people who are trained um, in both the psychology of it all and then the education side of it all. And I know that sounds very confusing, but I think want people to know is that it is comprehensive. If one test is done and somebody tries to tell you your child has an autism diagnosis, you should not accept that. It needs to be comprehensive. That's what I want you to know. Um, should be comprehensive. And if in fact you feel like it was not comprehensive, that's when you have to use advocacy and use your voice. The scary thing is the first time you hear it, you don't really know what to say, which is why Rochelle and I are here to help you. That's
Absolutely.
why we're here.
Absolutely. And just total transparency, one of my sons just had a reevaluation uh, actually today. And I can say my child is 12, soon to be 13. This is the first time we've had an evaluation where things were explained to me in plain English. So what I mean by that is that things were broken down to me of this is why we're doing this, uh as you call it, radar, and
Hmm.
this is what this is comprised of. This was the first time.
Yeah,
And it is frustrating and it is scary because you don't know what to ask. You
right,
don't know what you don't know,
right,
right?
right.
And so but it's nice to know that it is professionals, that there are people um who have the knowledge and the background in things to break it down, and there are standards and procedures in place,
And they are
um
trained, right?
and they are
And
trained.
it is, it is, and that's what we talked about earlier, relinquishing that control, right? You have to trust the people who are trained, who have the knowledge, right? Who are able to help you in the area because you're the expert in the mom piece
Right.
only,
Absolutely. Oh,
right?
oh, absolutely.
That's the part we have to understand. We're the expert
Absolutely.
in the mom piece only.
Only. Yeah. Yes. Even if I know a couple of autism moms who have a medical background, and they also struggled with their child getting evaluated because of the fear and
Yeah.
the stigma that comes around that, which leads me to my next question for you, Dr. Yolanda. My question is, what do you say to parents that are fearful that, well, I'm just going to, if I get the evaluation, does that mean that I don't believe in the prayers that I'm saying for my child?
Oh
The
my goodness.
like the in the power of the prayers. That how do I get the evaluation and still believe that God can, help my child with their communication or their social skills, or you know, how do I do that, Dr. Yolanda?
And I think that's another thing that we have to unlearn, right? Evaluation does not cancel your prayers. It allows you to pray specifically, right? When you have the evaluation and it says that your child needs support in this area, in this area, in this area, pray those specific requests to God. It informs your prayer. It supports your prayer. It gives you specifics to pray, right? I can think of many prayers that I prayed, Rochelle, and got exactly what I asked for. And then I was like, oh, I should have been a little more specific, right? So once you have clarity, you can pray more specifically. You can advocate more effectively. You can respond, right, in a different way because now you have the language. And I want you to forget all the things that people tell you, right? You just need to pray harder. Your labels limit your faith. God will fix it if we wait. All of those things, right? Proverbs 18:15 says, the heart of the discerning acquires knowledge. You got to get the knowledge. And faith and evaluation can work together, not against each other. I'm not saying don't pray, because you and I both know we gonna pray. But this evaluation will help me to pray specifically, right? Specific prayers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think something else that should be said when you pray those prayers, you don't get to determine the timeline, and you don't get to determine how they're
Ooh,
answered.
that's
So,
good. That's good, Rochelle. Thanks for that reminder. That's that's
so,
good.
you know, you may
Yeah.
be praying that, I saw a lot of these posts at the beginning of the year for families whose children are nonverbal.
Yes.
And the meme was, we pray that your child finds their voice. And one of my thoughts on that is your child has a voice. It may not be
Yes.
audible,
Yes.
but your child has a voice.
Yes. Yes.
Even if you go, but Rochelle, they have an intellectual disability, and I just don't know if they're really clicking with that. Your child has a voice. You live with that child. I bet you can tell whenever that child needs to go to the restroom. That child has a voice. I bet you can tell whenever that child's not rocking with somebody that walked through your front door. That child has a voice. So when you're praying to God that they find their voice, God probably already answered that, or is in the process of answering that and saying, but do you have the ears to hear that voice? Do you have the willingness to receive the communication and the way that it's coming? You know? Um,
I
and so,
also
and this is
think go ahead.
no. Oh, well, I was just gonna say, and this is not foo-fooing anybody that truly wants their child to speak.
Right.
I'm not foo-fooing that.
Right.
Trust me,
Right.
I know what it feels like to go years without hearing your child say mom.
Yes.
You think that it's not a
The
big
same.
deal
It's a big deal. A
until
big
you
deal.
hear that mom for the first time.
And the
Even if,
tears just the
yes,
tears just flow. I remember it like it was yesterday.
yes. And then, not to be funny, the first time that my child answered back to me in a semi-sarcastic way, I don't know, do I discipline you on that, or do I just
Or
applaud
am I
that because
excited? Yeah, girl, yes.
you just you just unlocked a new emotion. So, I love that you're saying that, it's not just pray harder. Your prayers, your the evaluation informs your prayers. I think that's great. That's wonderful. We do have a question, and the question came up. It says, "How do you find true, valid info on evaluations?" And also, what was the process like unlearning but staying connected to the church?
So I think you find true valid info and evaluations by not going to the internet. I think you go to the professionals, right? You go to the psychologist, you go to your pediatrician, you ask them for the info. You don't Google it. That's thing number one. The internet is dangerous. Don't do it. The process, like unlearning, staying connected to church, it was a challenge because my son had some behaviors that I don't want to say embarrassed me, but embarrassed me. Like I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna call it what it was.
Yeah.
And so shied away from taking him because I thought, and then got convicted. Like here you are going to church and you leaving your like, did your mom leave you at home when she went to church? Right. So so all the things. So I think it was challenging. Um, but I'm so thankful um that we were able to overcome it. And I think I shared on an earlier episode that we went to some churches who weren't so welcoming. Like we were asked to leave a church, like literally, please take your
Wow.
child, right? So I am thankful, that I was able to finally connect with churches who were loving and accepting, because that wasn't always the case.
Yeah. I know for myself, um, like you said, stay away from the internet, but also, um, I do still seek out multiple opinions.
Yes, that's important.
I also think that it's very important to find somebody, if you can, that understands your cultural
Yes,
background.
yes,
Not saying that if you're Latino, you need to go to a Latino evaluator, or if you're black, you need to go to black or white or white. It's just like there are certain things. I had an evaluator earlier on that was from New York, did not understand Southern hospitality, and did not understand yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
no, ma'am, yes, sir,
Yes,
no, sir, and try to tell me, well, we don't need to focus on getting him to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I get it, but the way that he said it at first, I was like, look here, you unclean person, how dare you tell me that I can't have him no manners while
right,
he's learning how to say yes and no, you
right.
know?
Just slide a ma'am in there.
Right. So, but I also had to learn, but I had to seek out, someone that was like,
Mhm.
okay, from the South, so they could explain to me. We're not saying that he's never going to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. We're saying we're starting the step first
Yeah.
on
Can we
yes
just
and
get to the yes or no part first?
let's start right here
Again,
and
control. We got to relinquish that control, and that is
control.
hard to do. It's hard to
and
do.
and then to go into staying connected to the church. Whoo, sometimes that's hard because sometimes you don't want to explain why you weren't there 2 Sundays in a row, and it's hard to explain to people, look, or why, I
We
can
got to
be
go right
here.
now. We
I
got to
got
go right now.
We got to go. um you know
Yeah.
and to them they're like, well, we don't see your boys doing anything. I know the signs. I know the storm is brewing. So either we go or we have a whole nother issue.
And I don't
you know
think we want to witness any of that. Let's just be real clear.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it is difficult, but it's okay for it to be difficult.
Yes.
It is okay for it to be difficult. And when we're going into, you know, these things that are part of the evaluation process that can be difficult, we also want to talk about, just why does it even matter to get an evaluation? Right now we're during a time where a lot of people like to do their self-diagnosing, based off of
Yes.
what they saw on TikTok.
Yes.
You know,
Hmm.
I'm self-diagnosed. Okay. Why does it matter to get a professional evaluation? Or does it even matter?
So I think it allows you to release guilt, right? Um, it answers the question like, why is this so hard? Why is this harder than I expected? Right. And now you can go from shame to understanding, right? So that to me is the spiritual part, right? You get released from your guilt and your self-blame. You get some clarity because you're wise. You know that your child is different. So now you can have some clarity about that. And again, I'm always going to go back to advocacy. Once you get clarity, now you can advocate for what you need. But practically, like that evaluation gives you access. It gives your child access to interventions and therapies and supports they otherwise would not have. You know that I work in a school system, and there are certain things that we would love to give all children, but that is not realistic. But if a child with a diagnosis or an IEP or a 504 needs it, we are mandated by law to provide it. So it gives you access. It gives you access. You get accommodations. You understand more about your kids' sensory and their behavior needs. Like I again, when we talk about culturally, as African Americans, we're often concerned about the stigma and the especially, and you and I have sons, right? And so especially if they're a black male, now they're a black male with a disability, like it just does something to your whole psyche, right?
Yeah.
And so when I say it's a faith walk, I mean that with everything in me, right? So you have to release yourself from the guilt, and you have to allow the clarity. You have to allow God to speak to you, and then you have to move forward. You have to move forward and get your child the supports, the interventions, everything that they need. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like so much of what you said. Um that it I always tell people the evaluation is that key
It is.
to the first door that leads to many more hallways and
Absolutely.
options
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
Not just for accommodations or modifications for your child, but also for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
As the caregiver, there's a lot that evaluation opens up for
Mhm.
you.
The respite care. Can we say respite?
Respite, hallelujah. Respite care is one of those things. Um, uh, there are some companies that will help you get adaptive equipment,
Yes.
from beds, to special locks on your door and
Yes.
alarms if your child elopes. There's so many benefits that you get, whether you choose to use them or not, from starting that evaluation.
Yes.
I homeschool my kids now, but my kids were in the public school system and I was a sped clerk. And yes, there's a lot that the school want, that there are children that are in schools that teachers desperately want to do
Yes.
X, Y, and Z for this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the parent does not sign off because you're not going to label my child. And you see that a lot in the Latino and the Black communities.
Yes.
Okay. Um, and it is very frustrating because we see kids who are struggling that that otherwise wouldn't be.
And we want to help
And
them. And we were just speaking from the educator lens, not the mom lens. We want to help them.
yes,
We
and
want
I
to.
know, there's a lot out there right now that it's like, oh, the educators are against us, especially when they go into these IEP and ARD meetings. Not, no, absolutely. They want to work with you. That's why it's called an IEP team, and you are part of that team.
Team. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and they want to help you, and they have to go off of which is part of the evaluation, data. Back to what
Yes.
we said before. These aren't just off of vibes,
Right.
you
And
know?
we can suspect all we want, right? And
Exactly.
what if it isn't autism? What if it's just ADHD? Or what if it's a
Yeah.
combination of both? Like, it's so intricate. So you just
Yeah.
want to make sure that you allow the professionals to do their job. Allow it.
Right. And the wonderful thing about the evaluations, because I saw a question that came up: how often, how regularly do you evaluate your child? It also depends on the disability. Um, as far as education wise, you have an annual ARD meeting. Howsoever, you as the parent can also request, if you feel like services aren't being met or new things have arisen, you can call the ARD committee together to have another evaluation, not evaluation, but another coming together of, let's look at the data. How do we move forward? So it's not really a full evaluation, but it's a review. Okay. A review of the data that we have there. Um, I know medically, it kind of depends on what your insurance is doing.
It's usually 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. What services you're getting.
Yes.
Sometimes it depends on what state you're in.
Yes.
I'm in the lovely state of Texas, so
I'm in the
yeah,
lovely
no,
state of Delaware.
yeah. Go ahead, brag. But sometimes you have to. It goes state by state, but ask the questions, and I think that's one of the big things that we want to also remember in these evaluations, and as you're going for them, don't feel like you're rushed, and don't feel like there's any dumb questions.
Right.
You have to ask the questions, because if you don't ask the questions, how are you going to know?
And it's okay to disagree.
Oh, absolutely.
With it's okay to disagree, and to ask for things to be repeated, But then you have to, at some point, you have to accept even the hard things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I'll tell you, it's one of the things that I know causes a lot of parents to cry, and I even wanted to cry today with the reevaluation when they talk about your child's IQ
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
an intellectual disability.
Yes. That's hard.
That's hard
It is.
because
Mm-hmm.
no one wants to be told your child has a low IQ. But also, like I said, I had an evaluator today who explained to me why it was scoring that way. Verbally, the verbal answers he was giving
I was about to say that.
were low.
Yes.
The nonverbal, where it was he can point and just move things,
Yeah. Off the chart. Mm-hmm.
high.
Yes. But because
So
we have to take a combination to make the score, it's more like
right,
this instead of like this. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then although that hit hard, having it explained like that, it made it go, oh, okay, I get it. And then being showed, well, because of that, that still puts them in the category of an intellectual disability with autism. So that opens up another key to services that he didn't have previously. And so, not to sound flippant or to be cliche, but it all works together for the good.
It does. It does.
There's a reason. There's a reason for it. So
Yeah.
I can acknowledge the pain
Yeah.
from that evaluation, but
Mm-hmm.
also receive the added blessings to more services for my child.
Well, and I also think that if your child is nonverbal, you should request that the test be read aloud. That as
Yep.
much of the test can be hands-on, be hands-on. Like you can request those
Yep.
things. Now, I would suggest if it's your initial evaluation, you let it go so that they can see exactly what your child needs. If we accommodate too much or we over accommodate, then we don't get the true picture. And I know that's hard, moms. I'm talking right to you. I know that is hard. But if we over accommodate initially, then we are painting a picture that is not a true picture of what your child is able to do. And I know that's hard, mom. So cry the tears, do what you need to do, and then pick yourself back up and move forward, because we have to have a true picture of what your child is able to do. Again, so that you can get all the interventions and all the support you need. If you have them do a whole nonverbal test, they will never know the challenges your child has with being verbal. And then you might not get the speech therapy and you might not. So
Yep.
you just have to be very mindful of, of how you approach the evaluation process.
And I will say this: these are my thoughts. These thoughts do not represent Dr. Yolanda McKinney or anything that she says, but I will say this. And I do say this to moms who call me and ask me about evaluations and stuff. And the idea that you need to max out minutes for supports, and you're like, well, I don't care that they don't have the staffing for it, and I don't care this and I don't care that. Sometimes, like Dr. McKinney said, we are hindering our children. Every child that has autism does not need a one-on-one aid. Every child who is nonverbal does not need a one-on-one aid. Let's look at the data. Now, if the data is there that shows the high level of need, go for it. But every child does not need it, and they don't need it in every situation and every community setting. So, again, with the evaluations, I think one of the things that I really want parents to look at is, are you actually looking at the data or going off of your feelings because you're afraid that your child's going to be left out? Because
Or
you're
if your child really does need that one-on-one and you don't allow that. I remember clearly the day Cameron came home from school and said, I don't need my one-on-one anymore. I said, okay. We had an IEP meeting. He said it out loud. They asked him why. Like, they're not just going to pull it. And
Yep.
and he said, whatever he needed to say, I can do this by myself now. I can do this. And so we kept the one-on-one aid a little bit longer for transitions because he was in middle school. And sometimes the hallway transitions got a little tricky with the amount of people and time.
Mhm.
And then we just decided we don't need the aid. Cameron can just be off bell. He
There you
can
go.
just leave a few minutes early before the other kids and miss the traffic. He does
There you
not
go.
need a person walking with him through the hallways. And he advocated for himself. I was terrified. Let me just be really honest. Like, wait a minute, we gonna put my baby out here in this hallway, right? But he was
Yep.
like, Mom, I don't need, right? So we went from one-on-one, like in class with him, helping him in classes, to only needing that support in math, to only needing that support in hallway transitions, to okay, thank you, I'm good. So you just have to be flexible.
You have to be flexible. And I
Yeah.
love the fact that you brought up that as your children get older,
Yes.
they are also a part of the evaluation team,
Yes,
of the
that is
evaluation
very
process.
important. They also can rate themselves
Yes,
and speak up for themselves, but you have to teach them that.
you have to teach them that. Another thing that I tell parents that reach out to me, sometimes you just have to be quiet, because in those situations, the evaluator will ask your child a question and you
Mm,
can't sit in the silence long enough to let your
yeah,
child process it and answer it in their way. Let them do that. It's okay. It's okay.
and Cameron was always with us in the meeting, even before he was able to speak in a way that more than just me and his dad understood, because we always knew what he was talking about.
Yep.
He was always present. So he was always hearing what was being said about him. And that's another thing that parents are fearful of. Well, I don't want my child to hear them saying this and that, or that. You let it go. It is for your child's good.
Absolutely.
It's for their
A-
good.
and that leads us into the next part of advocacy, of the how the evaluation is also a way that you and your child can advocate for what's needed. Um, and I'm one of these people, I come in hot. I know I'm working on it. I'm working on it. The ladies at Dayspring are teaching me that everything doesn't have to be, a sledgehammer and a wrecking ball. Okay.
That's why we balance each other, because I'm not coming in hot.
Oh, I come in hot. Let me find out. Let me find out anything. What? That behavior chart wasn't filled out 2 days in a row? I'm parking that car first thing in the morning. I'm walking up in there. What? Where is this behavior chart? Because what you're not going to do is 6 weeks from now tell me,
I
my
appreciate the
child,
honesty. I appreciate your honesty.
listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of them parents that
You're one
you
of
see
those
coming
parents
through
that
the
are
front.
like, oh man, I got Miss Kent. Hold on.
Yeah, okay,
Dr. McKinney, where you at? Your girl's out front.
yes, that's me. That's me. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. That's part of the
Good.
reason why we're homeschooled now. But no, but you don't have to be overly aggressive in order to advocate.
No.
You don't have to send 16 emails. Let them breathe and understand. Now I'm talking about in the school setting, but
Yes.
also in the medical setting.
Yes.
You are not their only patient. You are not the only students, and you're not the only student that your child is not the only student that needs or whose parent wants them to have X, Y, and Z. Take a beat. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some campuses and some principals and some leadership that they put special education and those children on the back burner. Not many, but there are some. So, yeah, follow up. I'm not saying you wait 6 months, 8 months, down the line. But if every day you are just on their neck, give them a moment. and also in the advocacy, give it a moment for them to put the processes in place and to work them. And again, going back to what I said, get the data. We can't make
You need at least
we
6 weeks. You
right.
need
We
to
can't
give them at least 6 weeks.
right. We can't make
Because,
adjustments
right?
after the first day. Well, my child came home crying because they don't like this new thing. We understand. They don't like change.
That's an understatement.
you know
Ooh, yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to ask you, as the mother, how has um being an advocate strengthened your faith? And also, do you feel like just because you're a parent of a child with autism that you must be an advocate as well? Do they go is it just one is the other, or can you just be a parent without being an advocate?
Wow. That's I don't know that this is going to be a popular opinion, but I don't know that you can be a parent and not be an advocate.
Mm.
Um, and for those parents who don't feel comfortable being an advocate, I'll do it for you.
Ah.
Right? I'll do it for you. Right? My role in education, period, is to be an advocate for the underserved, for the underprivileged, for the gifted and talented, for all ALL, bold, highlighted, underlined, in all caps, all
Right.
children. So if you are a parent of a child with autism and you don't have the edu speak, I'll advocate for you. I'll be there for you. That find the organizations that before I had the language, we had a person from Autism Delaware that was always on call, speakerphone, or whatever the case may be, came to the meetings if they were available, because you need somebody. So advocacy doesn't necessarily have to be from you. If I can tap into you, Rochelle, and say, look, Rochelle, we're going into this IEP meeting. Can I just have you on speed dial? Can I put you on FaceTime? Can I, whatever the case may be, you are still advocating for your child. Even if you don't do it yourself, even if you have to call in for some help, you're still advocating. That's still advocacy. You're still doing. I think it's the responsible thing to do, right? I
Yeah.
think advocating has strengthened my faith. I think advocacy has allowed me to fulfill purpose, right? I believe that everything, to your point early, it all works out for the good, right? And so it would be very irresponsible of me, which is why we're here doing this podcast, to not share what we've learned. And it's not a know all be all, it's just what we've learned from our personal journey. And if it can help somebody, it's advocacy. if it gives a parent, you know what? I saw that Touching You Talk show. I saw that Ask an Autism Mom podcast, and those two ladies said that XYZ. If that can help one person, that's advocacy. And to your point, it doesn't have to be aggression. It doesn't have to be knocked down and dirty, but it does allow you to intercede, to stand in the gap for your children and for other people's children. Right? You're speaking up for those who can't speak up for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. I also agree that you're going to advocate, even if your child doesn't have a disability, you advocate for your children.
Yes, you do.
Parents, that is what parenting is. You're advocating, whether you're advocating for your child to, maybe your child plays a sport, then you're advocating for them to get more playing time.
Absolutely.
You know,
You know how to do that part well, right?
okay,
Yeah,
right.
slide that on over to the academic side, please.
To the academic side, absolutely.
Yes.
And I know for me, it has strengthened my faith because as someone that always questioned what was my role in the church,
Mm-hmm.
evangelism, I loved evangelism, but I didn't like how evangelism sometimes is. You know what I'm saying? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't know if this is how I really want to do it. I'm able to share my faith in a way that's comfortable for me through my advocacy.
Yes.
Um, and in a weird way, uh, there I'm able to help other families feel comfortable bringing their kids to church. Um, having their kid wear their headphones when they're in church, because my kids are gonna have their headphones. Having their safe item, whether it's a stuffed animal or whatever, um, getting up there to sing and just spinning around in a circle, just being able to show up as themselves by being able to advocate for my kids to be able to show up as themselves.
And it inspires other families when
Yeah,
they see, right? So my son, you can't tell him that he doesn't know how to sing, right? And so you're singing these parts and it's just one straight monotone sound, right? And I'm a family of singers, right? We all
yes,
sing. And
yes,
so in my head, I'm like, okay, I know but what is this? Like this monotone, or what? And just loud, right? And so my cousin, who is the choir director, always just turns around and just laughs. Like I can hear Cameron's voice over everybody's
absolutely.
voice, but it is like, oh, it is. But
But he's making
again,
that joyful
you
noise.
get to show up as and never once do I say, "Hey, son," like, no, I'm not going to quiet him. I'm not going to like none of that.
Yeah,
Y'all, this is what it is.
this is what we got, and
This
this
is
is
what
how
we
it is.
working with, and I'm thankful he's here and he's singing. Like, let's just
Exactly. I love that. Because to kind of close up everything,
yeah.
evaluations, like you said, they inform our prayers.
Mm-hmm.
They put us on the right path to be better stewards and better
Absolutely.
advocates for our children.
Absolutely.
And um, in my opinion, getting the evaluation is a bigger expression of faith than not, because I'm trusting
That's the word.
that you see, I'm
Yes. Yes.
trusting that God, as you said, who already created, who knew what our children were going to need, God has already made the provisions. And it is up to me to make sure my child get to as many of those provisions as possible. I might not get to all of them, but I would be remiss if and if I did not really act on my faith of saying, God, I'm trusting the things that you put before me to be able to better take care of this gift that you gave me
Right.
in
Because
in,
it is
in
a
these
gift.
children.
It is a gift. And
Yeah,
we were entrusted with a gift. And I have to remind myself, unlearn that, my son is not mine. He was given to me to 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 love and to train up but at the end of the day, he belongs to God.
yeah,
And God doesn't make any mistakes. He
No.
does all things well. And so I would just encourage anyone who's listening, and I know it's called Ask an Autism Mom, but for the dads who are listening and the moms and the aunties and the other caregivers, the grannies, the grandmas, the meemaws,
Yep.
make the call, right? Take one brave step, make the call, write the email, have the
Yep.
conversation.
Start. Just take that first step. You have to take that first step. You gotta, okay? Because the help isn't gonna come like Amazon to your front door.
No,
Okay.
no.
That's just not how it works. So I pray that something was said here today that has at least made you, if you've been hesitant to get that evaluation, made you want to reconsider it. That has given you pathways and more clarity on what all comes with an evaluation. And I also want to say, if you have questions, you can email us at askanautismmompod@gmail.com.
Yes.
And we will help you. We're here. There are some people that have my phone number, or if we tag ourselves on all of these posts. If you want to send me a DM and you have a question and you want some advice, I'll absolutely.
Yeah, we're happy to do it.
We're here. And if I don't know and you reach out to me, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Yolanda. And if she doesn't know, she has access to people and things, and we will work to get you pointed in the right direction of an answer, even if we can't find you a definitive one ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Yolanda, do you mind closing us out in prayer so that we can encourage parents and caregivers to seek those evaluations and to, maybe remove the fear and doubt that they have?
Absolutely. God, we come before you today with grateful hearts, trusting you as the God who sees, who knows, and goes before us. God, for every parent that's listening right now, every concern, every late night prayer, every moment of wondering, God, you see the children you've entrusted to them. Remind them that their children are fearfully and wonderfully made. We ask that you go before every evaluation, every appointment, every meeting, every conversation. Be present with the parents as they go through the reports and the results. Let no label that may be given to their child overshadow their identity. Strengthen parents to advocate boldly and to love deeply. Give them the words to speak, the grace to endure, and the faith to trust you through every season. God, we thank you for being a God of order, of wisdom, and compassion. We place our children, our families, and our futures in your hands. We trust you, and we are going to use every tool that you've given us to provide for our children. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again for joining us on Ask an Autism Mom. If you missed it, don't worry. We're going to have it and repost it for the replay. Absolutely send us your questions because we are here to have a conversation, not just to talk. We want to talk with you.
Yes.
And so join in the conversation. I am Sister Rochelle Kent. And
I am Dr. Yoland McKinney.
Yes, and we will see you back next month at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yep, third Tuesday of the month right here.
Yes.
Ask
See you later.
Mom, Touching You Talk Show Network. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.